Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Eons of Battle, and today I want to do a little window shopping of the most obnoxious, large, and expensive miniatures Games Workshop currently sells or has ever sold, the Imperial Titans. These guys are absolutely ridiculous, have existed pretty much for the entirety of 40K, existing, I guess, in 2002, and then with the birth of Forge World. I don't remember exactly when the first Warhound Titan came out, because that was essentially the first Imperial Titan. And it wasn't even the Mars pattern, it was the old Lucius pattern. But these things are absolutely ridiculous. They've never actually fit well into Warhammer 40,000 because they just don't work well with the D6 system and like the strength, toughness, and like armor penetration. They're just completely obnoxious, but that's kind of why we love them. Now, in terms of actually owning or having these miniatures, nobody really should. They're horrendously expensive. Even the little tiny Warhound Titan costs about $800 to put together, and that's really only if you want two arm guns. If you actually want to like splurge and get a few extras so you can have a little bit more modularity in your games, it's like $1,000, which is crazy. Like for $1,000, you can have any 40K arm you want, 2,000 points, completely filled. Also your Steam library, you can get some fun choices for that. Maybe pay rent, like you can do whatever you want. But it is fun sometimes to just grab these rules from the internet and just proxy a game and see what would happen when your army goes up against one of these god machines. I can imagine just taking my dog and putting him on the table and being like, that's a Warlord Titan. Or in my case, probably closer to a Warhound Titan. Not just because dog, but because my Yoda's little. This is a picture of him, and he's doing his best. There are 4 Titans available, and one of them is actually really, really interesting. One of them I don't like very much for my own personal reasons, and one of them is, of course, the Warlord Titan. But first, looking at the little Warhound Titan, 1,100 points to bring in a game. It is actually very reasonable to get this guy into a standard game of Warhammer 40,000. I know it became a little bit of a meme when the Sisters of Battle index dropped, because it's a little bit underpowered, and some of the things that a lot of people were bringing weren't very good anymore. And so it became a meme of Sisters of Battle players being like, well, I'm just going to bring a Warhound Titan and 800 points of Sisters, and that's going to be my army for a little while. But this Titan is actually pretty cool. It's the cheapest way to bring some Titan-powered weapons to bear on the battlefield. I built and painted one, and there is something to them. They're big. They're very big. And they're the smallest of the Titans. All Titans have access to the special rule Super Heavy Walker, which is from the Imperial Knight Index, in which you can just walk over models as long as you don't end your move and as long as they're not more than 4 inches tall. So you're literally just walking over your allies and enemies to get around the board, which is kind of essential because another frustrating thing about these Titans is that they don't come with bases. You're kind of just left to your own devices of what you could possibly put under these things to hold them up. And literally like hold them up, like they're heavy resin. They want to fall over and break and drop. So people have done like, plates and like giant wooden plinths, and I've seen a few that actually had like aluminum bases just to try to keep the weight down while keeping these things actually standing upright. Some people have put CDs underneath the feet of their Titans to try to keep them from falling over. So you're really left to your own devices, and so just having a little bit more freedom in game of how to actually move these things is fair. I think it's fair. Also, just push your terrain out of the way. They're Titans. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be like, oh, that little building is in the way, so I can't move up the board. Like, just push that sucker right out of the way. You're playing a Titan game. This is Apocalypse. There are no rules. The Warhound Titan comes in at 40 wounds. Now, in previous editions of 40K and 9th edition, I really miss the Void Shield rule. It was a really fun and fluffy rule where your Titans didn't have an unbelievable number of wounds, but they did have Void Shield generators. In the lore, these are just like, from Star Wars, the Droideka shield bubbles from Star Wars. And every single time damage was dealt to the Titan, it would go to the first Void Shield. And when that first Void Shield died, all excess damage was lost. So it was really, really a great way of keeping your Titans safe from some of those crazy, crazy damage weapons. Thunder hammers, like Melta weapons. Because all of that excess damage after killing the first Void Shield will be lost. And then it was your opponent's turn to kill the second Void Shield, and then all extra damage would be lost. And so it'll be interesting to see if the new Titans are quite a bit squishier. 40 wounds isn't wild. It's not an absolute wild number of wounds. And I could definitely see it getting killed. In terms of the weapons, they're pretty wild. The Warhound Inferno gun, the one that I'm most excited for because it is the gigantic flamethrower, 24-inch range, 3d6, strength 7, damage 3, AP -2, with torrent and ignores cover. Decent. I don't know if it's gonna be a squad wiper. 3d6 is gonna be about 9 attacks. 9 attacks, wounding on 3s. It's not gonna kill, 9 attacks going through, wounding on 3s. You could get lucky and get 18 shots, roll really hot on your random d6, but you're probably not going to. I never do. I play Tyranids, which have a lot of random dice attack rolls, and so it never works out. It just never works out, but I do love the idea of a unbelievably massive flamethrower. In terms of the guns that are a little bit more consistent, the Warhound Vulcan Mega Bolter, 20 shots. Strength 6, damage 2, also decent, but once again, I don't know if it's necessarily a squad wiper because AP -1, 20 shots going through, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, that probably only means 10 shots on target, and then they make their armor saves. If they're Space Marines, 3-up saves, they're gonna make a lot of those saves, so it's definitely gonna put some holes in the unit. It's definitely gonna Swiss cheese them a little bit, but I don't know if it's gonna absolutely wipe them out. And the Warhound Blast Gun or the Warhound Plasma Blast Gun is probably certainly the best weapon they have available. 72-inch range, which is a little bit obnoxious because it's too big for the board a little bit. I guess some of the larger sizes of 40k, like if in a 3,000 point game, you could get a board 72 inches across. 2d6 plus 3, strength 9, damage 4, or 2d6 plus 3, strength 10, damage 5 if you overcharge it. That could very easily one-shot vehicles. I think the Plasma Blast Gun is a really, really solid pick, which is awesome because it's the coolest looking one. It's a gigantic plasma gun that's bigger than most tanks in 40k. So it's really, really fun to see that gun be really good. And the Warhound feet are kinda 8 attacks, weapon skill 4 up, strength 10, AP -1, damage 2. That will definitely do some damage, but once again, it might not wipe what has ever gotten to base contact. And you definitely want to tag these things in close combat because even though they have the big guns never tire, you're still subtracting 1 from the ballistic skill if they want to shoot back. So I was hoping that they would have some sort of a special rule that just says we ignore everything, but apparently not. Titans can be locked up in close combat to a certain extent. They can still fire all of their weapons, but at -1 ballistic skill, that really hurts when the majority of your army is wrapped up in one model shooting 2 guns a turn. It's pretty wild, but the Warhound feet are okay, and they'll do some not okay vehicle damage at damage 2, but if somebody tries to throw something like Terminators at them, it could pose a risk. The Warhound Titan is probably the most reasonable Titan, but moving on to the first of the unreasonable Titans, my favorite Titan, the Reaver Titan. This thing is glorious. It's been one of my favorite models since 2002. It's gorgeous, it's weird, it looks like a bug with tree trunk legs, and it is basically just the Warhound Titan with 3 guns instead of 2. It comes in at 60 wounds, still a good number of wounds, but I worry, if a las cannon gets through 9 damage, that can start to go away pretty darn quick. They have all the same rules as the Warhound Striding Colossus. It has God Machine. This model is eligible to shoot and charge in a turn in which it fell back. That is very nice. It's kind of getting back to what I wanted, where it's just this model ignores everything. But in terms of its weapons, all of its weapons are better than the Warhound Titan, but I don't know if they're much better. I'm kind of looking for those point delete weapons. That's kind of what I want. And I don't know if any of these weapons are point delete weapons. It also got a fair few new weapons when the Warbringer Nemesis Titan came out, because they're sort of the same thing. They're both kind of Reaver Titan class Titans, so they can share guns between each other, but I don't know if it really adds much to the Reaver Titan. The first new thing that they get, and every Reaver Titan comes with, is the Apocalypse Launcher, indirect fire and blast, 3d6, strength 7, damage 2, pretty darn good. Indirect fire is gonna be very nice on a Titan because nothing can hide. And this gun is just gonna be firing every single turn no matter what. So I really like this gun. I don't know if it's as good. We'll get to the Warbringer Nemesis. We'll get there, but first I wanna like the Reaver. The Reaver has some access to some really, really fun stuff. The most exciting is probably the Reaver Laser Blaster. Just a straight 8 shots, no D6 anything. I like a little bit of consistency. Strength 20, damage D6 plus 2 with blast. That's a darn good gun. That'll kill just about most things. Not infantry, but it'll one-shot just about any tank it'll come across. Maybe not a Land Raider, but it could. It could destroy a Land Raider in one shot, and that is pretty spicy. One thing that makes me a little bit sad is the Reaver Melta Cannon, the Reaver Volcano Cannon. These are risky. Yes, they do a little bit more damage, but I don't know if they're gonna consistently kill vehicles in one shot. Also, the Reaver Volcano Cannon has a 120-inch range, and I don't quite understand how Games Workshop calculates these absurd ranges. Like, did they just pull a number out of a hat? Did they just make it up off the top of their head? And if they make it up off the top of their head, why not have it be 69 420 inches? Because effectively that's what it is. Like, who's putting like 4 or 5 wargaming tables together and all of a sudden you're measuring with a contractor's 25-foot tape measure and you got 2 buddies helping you hold it in a straight line to measure the distance to make sure you're within range. Like, it's just ridiculous, and it gets way worse when we get further onto some of the bigger Titans. But the Volcano Cannon is D3 plus 1, 14 damage, so really few number of shots. You could roll 2, or you could roll 4, but hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, there's a good chance of getting some misses in there. They're not really gonna get an armor save, but it's risky. Like the Reaver Melta Cannon and the Reaver Volcano Cannon, I would like to sit down and really math hammer it, because I bet they're identical. One of them is just more shots, less damage. One of them is fewer shots, more damage, but I bet in terms of the math hammer, it's completely equal. They both have a good chance, but not a great chance of one-shotting some of the tougher vehicles in Warhammer 40,000. In terms of the Reaver Fist, it has a strike and sweep profile, which I love in 10th edition, that some weapons have 2 different profiles so that they can have maximum number of attacks or maximum damage. Although in terms of maximum, and also one thing I never liked about the Titans is they all have these arm weapons that like can only get to their waist. Like their arms are actually pretty small. Like the weapon should go all the way to the ground pretty much so that they can really hack at all of the nasty things on the ground. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but I guess it looks more proportional and elegant to have it be roughly human proportions as opposed to something really awkward and weird. But it's just my 2 cents. The Power Fist is good. I don't understand why it's hitting on 4-ups. Like, how's he gonna miss? Like, in a normal, it makes sense for a normal person in the heat of the battle. They're rushing around, charging into each other. It's okay hitting on 4-ups. Like, that seems about right. But a Reaver Titan's fist is not gonna miss the target. So I think they could have given them weapon skill 3-up. But then it's also a pretty darn good weapon. I don't know if it's worth replacing a gun, because all of a sudden when almost all of your army is wrapped up in a single model, you really have to think about your activation economy. You only have like 4 things to do a game. Or 4 things to do a turn. You can shoot with your 3 guns and then you can charge and fight something. And you need to do that every single time. And if you're all of a sudden ignoring your Titanic feat in favor of your Power Fist, you're giving up one of your 3 guns to do that every single turn. And all of a sudden you have way fewer things to actually do in your turn. So I don't know if the fist is worth it, but it is very, very fun. That was the Reaver Titan. I think it's solid. I don't know if the Reaver Titan is as good as 2 Warhound Titans. I think 2 Warhound Titans would probably outperform the Reaver. But speaking of outperform, the Warbringer Nemesis Titan. I don't like the Warbringer Nemesis Titan. I think it's bad. And by bad, I actually think it's very good. But it's the Primaris Space Marine of the Titans, because the Reaver Titan was holding down the fort for like almost 20 years, being a badass. And then the Warbringer Nemesis shows up being the same exact model, but just with a whole bunch of extra free guns. It's dumb. It looks pretty cool. It probably has the biggest gun in all of 40K, but it's dumb. I don't like it. I don't like that the Reaver Titan, and this thing is only 400 more points than the Reaver Titan. For 400 points, you get like 5.5 extra guns. It's amazing. It's so cheap. It gets extra wounds. It's obnoxious. The Reaver Titan has been holding down the fort for what, 40,000 years? And then the Warbringer Nemesis, which technically has been there the whole time, just showed up to steal its thunder. It's terrible. But it's actually a really, really good Titan. And what makes it great is that it is just a Reaver Titan, but it has 3 endless defense batteries, just kind of guns, little guns on its shoulders, but 24 shots and 18 shots, strength 8 and 6, damage 2. That is going to very easily wipe infantry, which is essential for Titans because if you're only killing like 2 units a turn, then their army is still going to get to you, tie you up, lock you out of certain objectives, and stop you from being able to win the game. So just having your 3 epic Titan guns and these lovely anti-infantry guns is just going to let you absolutely mow your way through the board and probably be a little bit more realistic to how these Titans would actually perform on the tabletop. I really wish they maybe gave that to Titanic Feet, just let the Titanic Feet be an obnoxious amount of wounds and damage. And that way that these machines can just stride through battle. They're god machines. They should be able to really, really bring some power. But really the Warbringer Nemesis is just on in a tier of its own compared to these other Titans we've looked at. It's really, really good. It can bring all the same guns as the Reaver, but it can bring 3 of them, where the Reaver is locked to 2 and the missile launcher's on top. This guy can bring 3 different Titan weapons, and they're all pretty darn good. The Nemesis Quake Cannon, probably the biggest gun in all of 40k, 480-inch range. D6 plus 6, strength 16, damage 4. That'll kill a tank. That'll kill any tank in the game pretty darn effectively. And it gets to take 2 more Titan class weapons on top of that. In terms of its weapons, it has Nemesis feet, not Titan feet, but Nemesis feet. Even its feet are just a little bit better. I don't get why this model for 400 more points is so much better than the Reaver, but it really, really is. And I don't like it. I don't want to like it. I get why this one would do better. I really like the Reaver Titan. I just think it's a spiffy Titan, but the Warbringer Nemesis outclasses it in every single way. And with more wounds. Why does it have more? It's the same size. Why does it have more wounds if it's the exact same size? It gets 20 more wounds. It's so much better. And it infuriates me. But now we get on to the absolute meme. The Warlord Titan. This thing is obnoxious in every way imaginable. It's the size of a small child, and it is 100 wounds. 100 wounds. I don't know exactly how many wounds a typical 2,000 point 40k army is, but it's probably pretty close to 100 wounds. And this thing is 3,500 points. So basically you have to make up your own game of 40k, because 40k exists in 1,200, 3,000 points. So you have to just say, we're playing Apocalypse, and we're gonna make it a 5,000 points aside, 10,000 points aside, to bring a Warlord Titan to bear. It is absolutely silly. It has tons and tons and tons of weapons. Apocalypse Launcher, actually it has 2 Apocalypse Launchers. Adrax Defense Las Cannons, Archeon Power Claw, Bellicose Volcano Cannon, Macro Gatling Blaster, Sun Fury Plasma Annihilator. The Sun Fury Plasma Annihilator, 72-inch range, 2d6 plus 6, 5 or 8 damage depending on how you supercharge it. It is, all of the guns are point and delete guns, every single one of them. They just move around the points here and there. This one does, 20 damage. The Bellicose Volcano Cannon is strength 32. Strength 32. So this gun is wounding other Titans on 2-ups because the Warlord Titan is toughness 16. I don't think anything in the game is more than toughness 16. The Land Raider is toughness 16. I think that's the top. That's the absolute top of how tough things can be. And the Warlord Titan can wound them on 2-ups because it's a meme. It's the absolute ultimate of what you can possibly do with your little D6, which I've always kind of wanted to see 40k move to a D8 or D10 system just to have more wiggle room in terms of balance. Because the difference between strength 4 or like toughness 4 and toughness 5 is huge. And the jump from toughness 5 to 6 isn't that big a deal. The way the math works out in terms of the dice comparison and the equals to, greater than, or doubles, like a wounding chart. So it's really interesting. I would love to see somebody play around with something like that, or just 40k to do it. Maybe 11th edition, who knows? But the Warlord Titan is absolutely hilarious. All of its guns, its lowest gun shoots 36 inches, which is actually pretty short for a Titan, but everything else, 200 inches, 120 inches, 280 inches, 100 inches. Again, I think it should be 420, 69 blaze it inches, because it doesn't actually matter. You're not gonna measure it. You shouldn't be measuring when this thing is on the table. You should just, your opponent should just quake in fear, or just absolutely throw everything suicidally into the Titan just to try to bring it down. You're not playing, if you're bringing these things, you're not playing a real game of Warhammer 40,000. Maybe the Warhound, because it's only 1,100 points, but for these other things, you're playing an actual scenario. You're playing this versus a Titan. You're like in some of the novels, like Soul Hunter, Eisenhorn, when they're dealing with Titans. You're just playing a scenario that you've come up in your head. You're acting out an action movie of the underdog versus the unstoppable robots. 100 wounds. Also, objective control 30. I don't think anything could possibly contest an objective with this thing. As it should be. As it really should be. There's no way a little guardsman or a space marine ancient with a banner is going to plant that banner next to the toe of a warlord titan and think that he's holding down that objective. There is absolutely no way. The only thing I would say for the warlord titan that is maybe not phenomenal is I still don't think the feat are amazing. Like the warlord feat, 6 attacks hitting on 4 ups. How is he going to miss? How is he going to miss stomping on something with a foot the size of a house? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Strength 12, AP -2, damage 4. Also, AP -2, give it AP -3, because Space Marines are still getting a 5 and 6 up save. Like, they're still okay. And Terminators are probably going to be absolutely fine with their invulnerable save. In the Index Imperial Agents, the Vindicar Assassin has a special ability. Once per game, you can ignore any and all opponents' saving throws of any kind. I think that a rule that ridiculous would actually be fine on the Warlord Titan, because it's a titanic foot, a foot made of millions of pounds of steel. There is no way it's stepping on you and then you're okay. It should just be, you're done. You're absolutely done if this foot lands on you. You just take them right off the board. No checks, no nothing. I think that would have been a really fun rule for the Titanic feat, because it makes sense. It just makes sense. Out of all these Titans, I personally love the Reaver. I think it's probably the worst one, but the Warhound Titan is also a lot of fun. And these rules are free online with the indexes. So I think you can just go get a teddy bear or something, put it on the table, and just have a really fun evening playing out scenarios of the most ridiculous thing in all of 40K versus your armies. I think the only thing that would make it more fun is some Eons of Battle terrain, which we have over on our Patreon. Over there, we have a brand new STL terrain pack every single month, and this month we have the Hive Colony, a beautiful board full of disgusting alien organisms. We also make one episode of Eons of Battle every single week, where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and give some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting. We host live Discord hangouts, and we have a tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines, and you can join the Immortal Crusade. We also stream 2 nights a week, every Tuesday and Thursday from 5:30 to 8 p.m. Central Time. Come hang out and talk all things nerdy. The Titans are wonderful, weird, wacky things. I don't suggest spending the price of a used car on a miniature, but the rules and the fact that they exist is pretty funny. And that's kind of, I think, what makes 40K so endearing, is the absolute ridiculousness of it at every single angle. Thanks for watching.